Hello there, everyone, and thank you for joining our online version of our Smart Security launch, which took place on the evening of Thursday, the 15th of October. A few obvious differences with this version. There's no champagne and canapes, unfortunately, and no prizes to be won. But nonetheless, hopefully you'll find it both interesting and useful. Before we start off, I'll give you a little bit of background for those of you that don't know about myself and Equilibrium Security Services. I started the company in 2012 with about 15 years industry experience as a firewall engineer and technical consultant in most of that time. But the companies I worked for and worked with in that time, they did have an appreciation for security, but it was always part of a general IT support or network support activity. So what I wanted to do was start a company that had security as its focus and security as its main and kind of only focus, really. So that's what we did with Equilibrium. We're currently moving into our fourth trading year. From year one to year two, we managed to double our revenue, which was obviously great. And our aim was to double again from year two to year three. We actually ended up quadrupling our revenue, which for me shows us we're doing something right and shows our customers and our partners that they're pleased to be working with us and bringing us more and more opportunities. And in that time, the people who represent Equilibrium have increased. So the quick rundown of the team. There's myself, I'm the technical director of the company. Ross Palmer is our lead cybersecurity engineer. Jamie Surtee is our account services manager. Emily Towsey is currently acting head of marketing, while Gemma Beardmore, who's our head of sales and marketing, is currently on maternity leave. On the evening, we had Tom Wing representing Cisco. And so we get a lot of support from Cisco distributors and from Cisco themselves. So our customers have a great experience. Before we talk about smart security and why our service Smart Security was launched, we need to understand the problem we're trying to solve, and that problem is cybercrime. So what is cybercrime? Well, one of the key things we were trying to get across in the evening was that it's a fully formed industry. I can even buy malicious software from what's known as the dark web. It comes with SLAs and support numbers. So, as you can see on the slide, it's an industry that's worth 750 billion, which puts it second largest criminal activity after illegal drugs. So that kind of puts it into context. This criminal cyber hierarchy has an actual structure. We got this slide from a Cisco security report from a year or so ago. So this is almost common knowledge now, I guess, amongst sort of security professionals it is. So, but that's one of the things we were trying to get across in the evening was how established an industry cybercrime is. So at the top we've got the technical innovators. We have infrastructure, the maintainers here, who kind of ensure that the business operates, and they distribute the services to these kind of non-technical opportunities. So if I was criminally minded and I wanted to buy a piece of software and I wanted to conduct some criminal activity, say bring down some competitors, or try to illegally gain information that I wasn't necessarily entitled to, and I can buy this illegal software, this malicious software. And the point we're making is really that it does come with SLAs. It comes with support contracts. The whole criminal hierarchy is a fully fledged and fully formed industry. This was a little prize we ran on the evening. We asked people to guess what percentage of small businesses that have suffered a cybersecurity breach in 2014. We had one person who was 1% away, actually, but yeah, it's 74%. And that's at an average cost of between 75,000 and 311,000, which, depending on the size of the business. And this figure, we wanted to get something across, actually, that this figure isn't necessarily only the cost of the data going missing and having to either replace it or whatever, but it was really made up of a really huge number of things. So I'll run down a list here. It's not on the slide, but there was downtime, so there's loss of revenue from that. There's solicitors' fees, investigation fees, damage to reputation, and money spent rebuilding that reputation, which, for many businesses, you've spent many years building a reputation. time responding to an incident, employee resignations, cost of recruiting if following resignations, marketing, re-establishing trust with your customers, and there's also the fines and compensation payments. So you can really see how this figure can really mount up. So how has this change come about? Well, cybercrime 10 years ago was, on the whole, limited to those technical experts in hacking, and kind of really limited to perhaps what some people might imagine hackers to be now, kind of spotty-faced teenagers seeking notoriety, or perhaps in extreme circumstances, group of masterminds trying to bring down companies for financial extortion. And that was in part because the way we accessed information was pretty simple. Business information was all kind of contained within these premises over here. So our critical company data, our private data, everything that kept the business running was sort of behind a firewall. And as long as this firewall was well maintained and well designed and managed and not overly permissive, then this information that was on the company network was relatively secure and relatively safe. Okay, there's some exceptions to this, like USB sticks, and there was some data leakage that was still going on sort of 10 years ago, but perhaps not to the extent that it is today. And the reason why it's increased so much today is because the way we access information has changed so enormously. Let's look at this slide. Shows how much things have changed. We've kind of got people working from home and remotely. We've got sites like VPNs to other sites, or maybe even to third-party businesses. We need to make third-party access available onto maybe a web portal. Everybody's got smartphones, wireless laptops, and then we've got these two grey circles here, which show the blurring of the boundaries between our own devices and company-owned devices. People have their own devices, people have company-issued devices. How do we access the information? So the attack surface, as we like to call it, is huge. So if you go back to this slide here, this firewall was really the only attack surface, and this was where people tried to attack, but it wasn't criminals tried to attack. Whereas now, the information we've got is kind of on all of these devices, so the attack surface is so much greater. So that's what's contributed to the rising cybercrime. And of course, email and the internet is the lifeblood of businesses, and without many businesses, regardless of what they do, can't really function without email and business. And this picture's changing constantly. We've got social media playing a really big part in business communication. So what used to look like this, fairly well controlled and relatively easy to control, now looks like this. Becomes a bit of a security nightmare for businesses, and that, as we say, has contributed to the rise in cybercrime. So the one thing we tend to hear when we're generally out and about meeting with our customers and businesses is that this kind of perception that it's never really going to happen to us, we're not interesting enough to be hacked. But it's exactly that perception that leaves small businesses to be so vulnerable. There are some exceptions to this, of course. I mean, unless you're Sony or your Carphone Warehouse, JP Morgan, and more recently Ashley Madison. But then, apart from these, then we're not singled out. We're not being targeted. The cyber criminal world is just casting their net as wide as they can to see what vulnerabilities that might be present on your business network. And if those vulnerabilities exist, and if they're there, then and exploitable, then they will be exploited. And the biggest thing as well is cybercrime isn't something that can be always noticed. It's not like conventional crime where something has been stolen and taken. You can say, well, that's missing now. Data can be being harvested without businesses even knowing. So one of the other things that businesses do when they do accept that cybercrime is on the rise and that all our data is floating around everywhere and it's potentially being manipulated or stolen, is what is it we're protecting from? What is it trying to protect ourselves from? Is it viruses? Is it malicious software? What is it? Well, what we are trying to protect ourselves against is malware, malicious software. It's kind of an umbrella term to encompass ransomware, viruses, anything that's designed to do malicious harm. A particular example we talked about was ransomware, and the particular example of ransomware was CryptoLocker. CryptoLocker, if anyone's not familiar, is something that once it's made its way onto a device, will encrypt the entire contents of the hard drive, as you can see from this slide, and you won't be able to access it because it's using a public and private key. So the private key will be issued to you once you pay their fine of $300 US, you can see here, or 300 euros. They clearly didn't know the exchange rate then. But as you can see, it's not a huge amount, but it's an amount that would make you. It's a bit of an inconvenience, but you kind of think, oh well, okay, well I'm going to have to pay it because the entire contents of my hard drive isn't. Perhaps it might not be backed up, or it might not be accessible to me in another way. So I'm going to have to pay it. And bearing in mind that criminal gangs are distributing probably hundreds of thousands of these a day, you can see how the value of the business is valued so high, and this is just one type of hundreds of thousands of different types of malicious software. So how is this getting onto our business networks? Well, email is probably one of the biggest factors. Phishing emails. I asked a question on the evening of the actual launch, is if anybody could try to ascertain how an email like this, which came to me, notice they didn't use my name, so I didn't have any of my private details, I just had a copy of my email address from somewhere. But it's purporting to come from Apple. It's saying my Apple account's been frozen. It has, it looks fairly good, it's got quite a good Apple logo in the corner, nice use of a little shadow there as well to make it look kind of good. But the question I asked of the evening was, how would you tell? What would you try to ask? What would you use to establish that this isn't from Apple? And somebody did get it right actually. They said, check the link. So if we were to hover on the link, we'd see that link there that says verify my Apple account isn't taking us to Apple at all. There are some things in the URL that suggest that it's kind of Apple-y. It's got an iOS. It says support.me.com. It says Apple Care Plus in there somewhere, but that's absolutely not taking us anywhere to Apple. So they're probably trying to get a couple of things here. One's my username, maybe my password, and then maybe even taking me to get some malicious software onto my machine as well. So it's quite important that we're able to establish that emails like this aren't genuine, but they're getting very well crafted these days. Phishing emails. So before I move on to the next slide, I just wanted to point out another thing actually. If we go back, you see how the subject line here it says my Apple iCloud account is frozen. So if you see something like that, that's going to trigger a response. It's going to try and make you think, oh, hold on, I need to act here. And this is what criminals use as well. They use marketing techniques. I'm calling it marketing because that's what it is. They're marketing their products. They're trying to get you to use your emotion to respond. So whenever there's a tsunami or a terror attack, you do see phishing emails saying donate now. And so it's really important to try and spot that these aren't genuine. Maybe even give whoever the organisation claims to be a call, let them know what the email looks like, just to double check that it is it's coming from who it purports to be coming from. And even when Facebook added a dislike button, or empathy button, sorry, I think it is, but this resulted in a whole load of scams coming out and email phishing attempts to try and give you early access to a dislike button. So we really got to keep our wits about us. So what's the solution then to keeping away from these and protecting ourselves from it? Well, clearly we think smart security is a viable solution. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had our launch event and I wouldn't be doing this now. But how we try to address the issue is we place an appliance on a carefully selected location within your network so that it stands the best chance of seeing everything that takes place on your network. That might be closest to your private data, your critical data, or it might be closer to the internet, try and block all the bad stuff out. But what smart security gives us, beyond what a next generation firewall might do, is, as you can see this slide, I'll talk through them. So we offer advanced malware protection. So the device will spot new types of malware constantly and stop you from going on it. So even if users did click on that link, the malware will be stopped and blocked and isolated. We have application control. So businesses are using social media more and more. You may want to allow your users to get to Twitter, to get to Facebook, maybe Instagram or whatever else. But you might want to granularly control what within that is allowed. So you might want to allow Facebook, but not allow the chat or the games and things that might be vulnerable. So that application control is an excellent feature. URL filtering. This is something where you can't always explicitly define which URLs you want to block. If you want to block gambling, then you can just categorize gambling. You can just categorize pornography. The categories are all there, sorry, I should say. But as new websites are developed, new websites are coming out all day. As they're developed, the system categorizes it, and so it will outrightly block it. Sometimes you do get occasions where things are incorrectly categorized, but that's better than it being inadvertently allowed. So if something seems to have a pornography content or gambling or alcohol related or anything else, any of the categories that you want to block, then they will be blocked, and you can request, put in a request to Cisco that those are unblocked. Mobile device protection. We talked about the attack surface. So what we do is we take the mobile device protection, the protection, we take it on, we extend it onto the mobile devices. The system gives you detailed visibility management, so you can see exactly what's being blocked, what's going on. The visibility is key to understand what's happening on your network. Some customers do get alarmed that, why am I being attacked by from these websites in China? Well, that happens. That's the kind of nature of the internet at the moment, and it will be for the foreseeable future. So seeing it being blocked is both alarming, but also comforting in a way. We offer 24-hour support, so if your business needs access to our engineers around the clock, then we can absolutely give you that as well. Background to the bottom of the slide here, signature tuning. So this is something we do to make sure that the system matches your environment. No two businesses operate the same way, and your business is always changing. There's new developments, new websites, new portals, new things that customers are working with, that your customers are working with, which the protection needs to adapt to. So signature tuning is we regularly modify the system so that you're continually protected. So every time there's new developments and new changes, then the system matches what needs to be protected. We give employee training. We talked about malicious links and phishing attempts, but there's so many other factors to it. So we'll come in, we'll talk to your employees, we'll train them, and make sure they completely understand all the risks and the things to take. And we can do it across different departments as well. It's not only sort of IT level users. It's everybody. For some businesses you work with, their biggest risk is actually their board of directors, because the information they access is so sensitive, but also they're potentially being targeted and potentially being accessing information on so many devices, and sometimes getting the job done is obviously more important than considering security. So we make sure we educate the entire company if that's what you're after. Vulnerability assessment, that's something where we almost look at your system from a hacker's point of view. We look from the outside in, see what vulnerabilities you might have, and we'll work with you to block them. Full network assessment is almost the other side of the fence, so that we're looking at the inside of your systems and say, okay, is there a way that the network could be designed so that it's less or more efficient, so that it's security doesn't become a preventative step, but you make sure everything's designed and implemented in the most efficient way. Cloud-based global protection is a really important one, because this keeps your system up to date all the time. So if there's a new piece of malicious software discovered in China, Cisco have a team of global security analysts, and they're monitoring all of the internet's traffic around the clock. And every time a new piece of malware is discovered and analysed, a new signature is spotted and pushed down to your systems. So going back to the example I was starting to say, was that if a new piece of malicious software is developed in China, then the same day you can be protected from that same piece of malware. So it's constantly being updated, very dynamic. One of the key differences is about smart security is we also include cyber liability insurance, and this is a really key one because there are so many factors that are beyond what we can do, beyond what you as a business can do. So there may be occasions where, in the unlikely event that you do suffer a breach, we work with a company called Adler, and they they've got an excellent panel of lenders that offer really, really good cyber liability insurance. I think maybe a few years ago, cyber liability, there's a lot of skepticism around this. That companies would say, well, if we took out cyber liability insurance, the likelihood of an insurance company paying out is really low. But we work with them. We almost underwrite, not from an insurance point of view, obviously, but we'll make sure you tick all the boxes so that if there is a breach, then we make sure that the insurance company will pay out as well. So, and they're really good. The lenders that Adler work with are excellent. They get you up and running straight away because we mentioned the cost of suffering a breach. It can spiral, but the money and the support and everything is there straight away. Compliance is a bit of a bugbear for me because we worked with some businesses who say, well, frankly, we just need a next generation firewall. We need application control. We need IPS, and we just want to be compliant. And even if it's just sitting there doing nothing, as long as they get the tick in the box, then they're happy. For me, a good, well-designed, secure system should have compliance as a byproduct. So, having all of these will make you compliant if it's PCI DSS, if it's, any kind of cyber related, any kind of compliance with the cyber element, then, the compliance should come naturally. But these systems will help you achieve your compliance. So there's another area, this isn't as on the slides, but another thing we talked about was a lot of SMEs face problems around the high capital investment that's required for such a system. There's the depreciation and there's the lack of in-house technical expertise. Well, how smart security addresses these issues is, well, the high capital investment, first of all, we own the device. So we'll maintain it, we'll keep it upgraded, we'll monitor it, and we'll do a tech refresh every 3 years. So the depreciation doesn't come into it at all. And you've also got no high capital investment as a result. And regarding the lack of in-house technical expertise, well, this is where we come in. So we customize a solution to meet your business and your business applications. And we, even if you do have an in-house technical team, regardless of how big or small they are, we can work with them. More than likely, there'll be network support, or there'll be IT support, or there'll be desktop support. Being focused on security, having the focus on security is a difficult resource to have. So this is what we provide. We're your technical security team, basically. But it's all about risk, and it's about your business taking a calculated risk. But you've got to be aware that that threat is real, and quite often you can be being exploited without realising it. On the evening, we had a security guard who checked everybody in, checked their bags, checked their quick scan of them, as security guards do, because it was night time. But Lee actually wasn't a security guard. He was recruited by us to place a card on everybody. And what we actually did was we demonstrated how easily we're distracted when our attention is drawn elsewhere. And this is what cyber criminals rely on. So kind of shocked attendees spotted that they had a card on them which said they'd been breached, and we gave away some prizes for the ones who had red cards. Everyone else had blue cards, but it was just, we'd hit home from that point that our security guard, in inverted commas, was actually a pickpocket who was recruited by us. So he was very good at slipping those cards in, and these are almost acting out how a cyber criminal might act in the online world. So that's the end of the presentation. I hope that was useful. Please visit our website at www. equilibrium-security.co.uk. I'm Manish Chauhan. Please feel free to get in touch and hope you enjoy the presentation. Thank you.